In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a dynamic chain brush. Similar to my previous video, the dynamic rope brush. This brush will let you simply brush on a stroke or line and apply your chain directly to the line. You'll be able to use the pen tool to create custom shapes and adjust your chain accordingly. And because it's dynamic, the brush will adjust and add more links or remove links. And you can use specific shapes like the rectangle tool or the ellipse tool, all while being able to adjust the colors and even make cuts to create custom shapes. Keep watching this video and I'll show you how it's done. In this reference photo I pulled off the internet, you can see this chain has specific characteristics. You've got your U shape for each chain link on either side, and because this is normally created from one piece of metal, you're going to see a weld joint on one end. So when we're creating our chain brush, just to give it that extra bit of realism, we're going to recreate this weld on each link. Also, we're going to need to create two separate chain links. One is going to be this side profile one, and the other one is going to be this flatter version. Now, similar to the rope brush, the chain brush is going to be created the same way. We're going to create parts of the chain, including chain links for the ends and for the center of the chain. And we're also going to have to create some corner points as well. So these chain links are going to be used for the inner corner and the outer corner. And as usual, we're going to have boxes around each component as Illustrator uses these boxes in order to judge where your chain gets aligned. So the first thing we need to do is create our first chain link. And we're going to go to our rounded rectangle tool. And we're going to click in the center of the screen. And in this dialog that pops up, we're going to punch in 3.8 inches for the width, 2.4 inches for the height, and the corner radius is going to be 1.2 inches. And you're going to hit OK. And we're going to end up with the outside of our chain link. Now at this point, I'm going to change my default color, make sure that it's black so that I can see my chain link. And I'm going to make sure that I'm working at a 2-point stroke. Next, I'm going to go up to Object and Path, and I'm going to offset the path. And the offset is going to be minus 0.65 inches. And you're going to hit OK. And we're going to give this a 50% gray. Next, go into your Pathfinder, and we're going to hit the minus front option. This will just merge our two link shapes and cut out the center to create our final link. Now we also need the little weld joint as well. So you're going to click on your rounded rectangle tool again, click once in your workspace, and in the dialog that pops up, you're going to put in 0.1592 in the width, and in the height, you're going to do 0.8092. And in the corner radius, you're going to put in 0.0796 and hit OK. And here's our weld. I'm just going to drag that to the top of my chain link and make sure that both of these are aligned. So I'm going to select both of these, go up to the top and click on the horizontal align center. I'm also going to check my anchor points by clicking on the white arrow, and I'm going to zoom in and make sure that these 4 anchor points are aligned to the inner and outer lines of the chain link. Once I have this chain link, I'm going to drag it over to the side. I'm going to press Shift and then Alt or Option on the Mac, and I'm going to click and drag a copy over. And you do want to delete the inside because we don't need it for now. I'm going to click on the rounded rectangle shape, and I'm going to double click on the scale tool. And in this dialog, you're going to go down to non-uniform scale. And the first scale you're going to do is a vertical scale, and you're going to scale it 65%. Make sure that scale strokes and effects is turned off and hit OK. Now using the white arrow, I'm going to drag select these 4 inside anchor points, and I'm going to double click on the scale tool again. Now make sure when you go into the scale settings, change the vertical back to 100%, and now adjust your horizontal scaling to 85% and hit OK. Now, one thing you will notice is that because Illustrator can't edit the control handles of multiple anchor points, you're going to have to fix the angles on these 4 points because they don't look as round as they should be. So we're going to click on each one of these and we're just going to drag these handles out slightly. And just do that on all 4 points. And you don't want to go too far, just a tiny little bit on each one. It'll give you that smooth oval shape with that slight straight edge on the top and the bottom. Now going back to my black arrow, that's V on the keyboard. I'm going to go up to Object and I'm going to go down to Path and go to Offset Path. And I'm going to do the exact same offset, minus 0.65 inches. And again, select the entire thing, go to your Pathfinder and click on minus front. Now I'm going to grab my weld from the other chain link and duplicate this by pressing Alt or Option on a Mac. And I'm just going to drag it to the bottom. Make sure you have both selected. So just drag select both and go up to the top and select on horizontal align center to make sure that both of these are aligned. And we're just going to zoom in, and using my white arrow, I'm going to make sure that my anchor points are aligned to the inner and outer parts of my chain link. Now to finish off these chain links, we're going to have to merge these in a way so that it keeps the shape but also removes that back part of the chain link. So we're going to select this first chain link. I'm going to go up to Pathfinder and I'm going to go down to Divide. And when you click on Divide, you'll notice that it divides the entire shape into multiple sections, but it removes everything underneath. Now using the white arrow, this is going to be a separate shape. This is going to be a separate shape, and so on. So now what we can do is select it with the black arrow, go to our Shape Builder tool, which is the 2 circles here with a little arrow. And if you're not familiar with the Shape Builder tool, I do have a video that shows how the Shape Builder tool can be used to create custom shapes and also remove excess lines and anchor points. So check out that video if you want to learn more about the Shape Builder tool. So I'm going to click on that, and the shortcut for that is Shift M. And once you have your Shape Builder selected, click and drag from the top of the weld all the way down, and it will merge those 3 sections together. And now you'll have a solid chain link with a weld attached. Now we can do the same thing to our other chain link. Go over to Pathfinder, click on Divide, and then click on our Shape Builder tool or Shift M on the keyboard, and then drag down to merge all the parts of the weld. And now we have our completed chain links. So to divide this up, we're just going to use the pen tool, draw a line, pressing Shift to constrain the line to 90 degrees, and make sure to drag select the line and your chain link, and click on the horizontal align center so that you're perfectly aligned. Next, make sure everything is selected, and you go to your Shape Builder tool, and we're just going to click on each component on the side next to the line. So I'm going to click there, and pressing Alt or Option and clicking on the inside to remove that white part. Now if we click on our chain link, go up to Object and Ungroup. Now we're going to have to select the 2 parts and then drag them off, and then select these lines, delete those, and these will all still be separated. So we're going to have to regroup these. So select the first half of chain link and hit Control or Command G to group, and then drag select the other half and do the same thing. So one important thing we need to also do is remove these outer lines on the chain links. If you click on one line, hold Shift, click on the next line, and then click on this line here and this line here, and then hit delete. Now I'm using the white arrow. Make sure you use the white arrow, not the black arrow, so that you can highlight those specific lines. Now when you merge these together, so if I use my white arrow and I'm just going to drag these together just temporarily, it should look identical to my original, but now the chain link is separated, so I can drag them out into 2 separate parts. So now we can begin assembling our chain components. We're going to start off by dragging down a guideline so that we can align our parts. And with this, we're not going to be able to align to the guide. So if I click on the vertical align center, it's going to align it off center because the weld is throwing it off. We're going to have to use the white arrow and drag the chain link down and adjust it manually so that this center point is always going to be locked on to our guide. Same with these as well. We're going to have to drag these over and make sure that these anchor points snap to our guideline as well. Now we are going to be reusing this shape later on, and actually we're going to be reusing all of these shapes. So I'm just going to select these as they are, and I'm going to drag and duplicate by pressing Shift and Alt or Option on the Mac so that we have some copies up at the top. Now I'm going to start assembling our first brush component. That's going to be the inside part that gets repeated. So I'm going to take my two cut chain links and I'm going to align them so that they snap to my flat profile chain link. So I'm just going to select my chain link and I'm just going to drag that until it snaps to the center. I'm going to drag my other one and again make sure that that snaps. And just to keep my alignment the same on both sides, I'm going to adjust my constraint. So if you hit Command K on the Mac or Control K on the PC, you can open up your preferences and you can change your keyboard increment to 0.25 inches and hit OK. I'm going to select my right side chain link and I'm just going to use the keyboard, click on the right arrow, and I'm just going to move it over twice. And then click on my left one and move that one over twice to the left. So now both of these should be aligned perfectly on either side, and I'll be able to cut these out and create my center component. Now before I do that, I'm going to go up to my rectangle tool and I'm going to drag out a box. And I'm going to start at the anchor point from my chain and I'm just going to drag it out until it snaps. Make sure you press Shift and make sure it snaps on the outer edge of the box. And I'm going to go up here to my color and I'm going to click on this white box with the red line just to remove the fill from my box. And I'm also going to align this to my guideline. So I'm going to select my box, Shift select my guide, and then click once on the guide and the guide will highlight. So now the guide will be my key item and it will align the box to my guide. So now I'm just going to go up to the top, click on vertical align center. We'll shift my box up and now it's perfectly aligned to all my parts. Now if I want to double check that, if I hit Control Y or Command Y, go into outline mode, zoom in on the outer edges of my chain link, I can see that those are aligned, and check the other side and those are also aligned. And I'm also going to change color of the box to a bright red so that I know that the color is going to be removed later. So now with this done, I'm going to select everything. I'm going to drag it over to the side. Then I'm going to drag to the right, press Shift and Alt or Option on the Mac to make a copy. Then press Control D or Command D on the Mac to repeat the last command so that it'll make a third copy. From here, we'll be able to cut all these out to create our chains. So on this outer edge one, we're going to delete this section here because this isn't needed. And on this side, we're going to delete this one because that one isn't needed either. And for this one, I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to select my shape builder tool and you're going to click and drag. Make sure that your flat chain link is above the side profile one. And you're going to drag from the top of this side chain link. You're going to drag down, include all three of these parts, and then let go. And now when you unclick, it looks like the chain is going through the loop of this other chain link. And we're going to do that to this one as well. So drag select the three chain links, click on the shape builder, and I'm going to drag select here and here. And do the same thing with this last one. So now we have our inner component of our chain, so the part that replicates. We have our two end caps. Now all we need is the two corner components for the inner and outer corners. So for that, we're going to have to grab all of these three chain links that we saved from earlier. I'm going to drag them over here. I'm going to drag out copies of our boxes and press Control or Command D to duplicate again so that I have two boxes. Going to make a copy of this chain link, drag it into the other box, and I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees. You can use the corner points to rotate, or if you don't want to use those, you can use the transform tab, and under the rotation, just click on 180 degrees and it does the same thing. Now again, you'll need to align these so that the centers snap to our guide. And then adjust these so that they're aligned to our boxes. And again, when you select both of these, drag select, click once onto the part that you want everything to align to. It'll highlight and then click on the center align. Now from here, we're going to create two versions of our chain using the side profile links. So first we make sure that we have this lower weld here, and on this one, the weld has to be at the top. And for this first one, we're going to keep the chain link as is. I'm actually going to just drag that here, drag this to the end. Make sure this is aligned again to the center line. And then drag it over to the edge, make sure that it snaps to the outer edge of the line. Now for this one, we're going to have to rotate this 90 degrees and make sure the weld is on the left-hand side at the bottom. And we're going to have to drag out two guides for this. So I'm going to drag out a vertical guide, and I'm going to make sure that it snaps to the center of my flat chain link weld. And then I'm going to drag out a horizontal one, hit R on the keyboard, click in the intersection of these guides, and we're going to drag down and press Shift to constrain it. And we're going to make sure that this is set to -45 degrees. So we added a vertical guide and also a diagonal guide on a 45-degree angle. Now we're going to grab our bottom chain link, align it to my vertical line, and then make sure that the end aligns to the edge of the box. Okay, with that done, we're going to grab our flat chain link and I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. So press Shift to constrain and then rotate up until it snaps to 45 degrees. And this is where you use that third guide, and we're going to adjust the center point of our weld so that it snaps to that 45-degree guide. Now I'm going to go into outline mode, and that's Control Y or Command Y on the Mac. I'm going to zoom in a bit, and I'm going to make sure that your flat chain link is selected with the white arrow. Click on this corner point on the inside, and then drag down, press Shift to constrain it to 45 degrees, and then drag it until this point is aligned to the inner part of the side profile chain link. Make sure that that is aligned. Now I'm going to add the two side profile links to the other side. Make sure they snap to the edge. Now I'm going to select this first chain link. I'm going to go over to my rotate tool, click and hold until you see the reflect tool, or you can hit O on the keyboard. Make sure you click on this outer edge anchor point, and then you're going to drag down and press Shift to constrain, and it's going to mirror our part so that it flips the weld to the bottom side of our box. Then I'm going to select this bottom one, hit O on the keyboard for our reflect tool, click on the top anchor point, and then drag, press Shift, and it'll flip our chain link to the other side as well. Now I'm going to create our guides. So I'm going to create a center guide, drag select my box and the guide, click on the box to create our key object, and then click on horizontal align center. I'm going to drag down another horizontal guide, hit R for rotate, click in the center when it says intersect. Then I'm going to click and drag on the right side and press Shift to constrain to 45 degrees, and it should say -45. Click on my flat chain link, rotate it 45 degrees, and then align my weld or the center of the weld to that 45-degree line. Go into outline mode, hitting Control Y or Command Y on the Mac. And then with the white arrow, I'm just going to drag down, press Shift to constrain on that 45-degree angle, and make sure that the corner aligns to the inner edge of my chain link. And from here, we can remove our guides. So I'm going to go up to View, go down to Guides, and hit Clear Guides. So before you do anything else, make sure that the chain link in the middle, so your flat chain link, has the weld facing the bottom right corner. And in the other one, the weld is facing the top left corner. And the side profile links you want facing the left and the top. And on this other one, you want the welds facing the bottom and to the right. Now I'm going to select the 3 chain links, select my shape builder tool, and you're going to go from the top of this side chain link, and you're going to drag down through and go from the bottom one here up and to the right. So now it should look like these 2 chain links are going through the flat one. And I will do the same thing on the other side. Now that we have our chain components completed, you can select our red boxes, remove the color. So I'm going to go over to my color tab, and under the stroke, I'm just going to remove the color by clicking on the white box with the red line. And I'm going to drag select each section and just group them. So hit Control G or Command G on the Mac, and just go through each one and make separate groups. So after creating all of our components, you may notice that from the merging of all of these parts, Illustrator added in those lines again on the outer edges. And these need to be removed before we create our brush. So I'm just going to drag select the boxes, and I'm going to go up to Object, Lock, and Selection. Or you can hit Control 2 or Command 2 on the keyboard, and that on the Mac, and then it locks the boxes. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to select all of these outer edge lines, and I'm just going to delete these. If you leave these as they are, they're just going to show up in the brush and they're going to look like dark lines in the middle of each chain link. So that's how you know that you accidentally missed one of these lines. Okay, now I'm going to go up to Object and Unlock All. And now I can start creating my chain brush. So I'm going to click on the middle component. I'm just going to drag that into my brushes panel. Make sure that in the dialog that pops up, you select Pattern Brush. Hit OK. I'm just going to give this a name. So I'm just going to call this Chain Brush. Make sure to remove this corner because this is auto-generated by Illustrator. We don't really need it because we have our own. So I'm just going to click None. And make sure to leave all these settings the same, so stretch to fit. And the colorization, make sure to change that from none to tints and shades. And that'll allow us to add color to our chain once it's done. And then hit OK. Now we're going to add all of our other components into our chain. So over on the side in the brushes panel, you'll notice that there are several compartments. So each section is for a different part of the brush. So the middle component always goes into the second and third slots. The first and fourth slot are for the corners, the inner and outer corner. And then the last 2 slots are for the end caps. So I'm going to grab this first end cap, drag that over. You need to also press Alt or Option on the Mac in order to input any parts into these slots. If you don't, if I just let it go now, it'll think that I'm trying to create a new brush. So I'm going to press Alt or Option, and you'll see this little black box appear. And now I can move it to this left-hand side. So this is box number 5. And you will see a preview of that in the bottom right here. Then hit OK. And then I'm going to add my other end cap. And again, press Alt or Option, and then drag that to the very end. And again, you'll see a preview up here. Hit OK. And then lastly, we'll drag our outer corner into this first box here. And then you'll see a preview of it at these 3 corners. And then our inner corner goes in box number 4. And you'll see a preview right here. Then hit OK. Now we can delete all of our sections because we don't really need them anymore. And we can try out our chain. Grab my paintbrush, select my chain. We can also adjust our color. using the stroke color. If the chain is too big, we can double click on our chain brush and we can go up to the scale and we can adjust the scale, and I can change that to, let's say, 25%. Hit OK. And then Illustrator will also ask you if you want to apply to the strokes. You can click on apply and you'll notice that Illustrator updated the chain. I'm going to create a box using my chain and create an ellipse, and also use my pen tool to create a more custom shape. Apply some colors. And you could even add effects. So I'm going to select all my chains, and under the appearance panel, click on effects and go to stylize, and let's add a drop shadow and change that to, let's say, 25% opacity, and hit OK. Now again, there are some limitations to this chain brush depending on the angle of your anchor point. If you make a cut anywhere and you try adjusting the line, you'll notice that as long as you're at 90 degrees, this corner point will look okay. But if you go anywhere past 90 degrees, Illustrator doesn't know how to represent this corner anymore. So then it starts to distort the corner. So at that point, if you use your anchor point tool and just change that to a curved point instead of a straight point, it will fix the distortion slightly and you'll be able to get a little bit better chain length there on the corner. So there's the finished chain brush. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button. It helps me a lot. And if you want to catch my future videos, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.